Hello and welcome to the Emerald City Video Podcast. I'm Russ, and this is Zach.
Hello, how goes it, Russ?
It goes.
I was like, great. Do we have that delay again? Because you took a second.
One of the things we used to do a lot more than we do now is we used to do these 5 for 5 episodes. Because, of course, when we worked at the video store, you could get 5 VHS tapes for 5 days for $5. That was a thing that ran all the way up until we stopped carrying VHS tapes. And once it moved over to DVD, I think it was like $6.25, but it was the same deal.
Yeah, but it killed the whole rhythm. I mean, it was just
and yeah, it really. I mean, we just called it 5 for 5 because it was still 5 days. But like, obviously, anybody who'd been around for long enough was like, this is not what I was. But in any case, like, so we used to do a lot of 5 for 5 episodes, and the way that we used to structure those most of the time would be to recommend stuff, kind of like we used to do on the shelf talker at the store. Like a new release would come out and we would put something underneath that's like, if you liked XYZ, try this. And it, typically you're like reverse engineering your recommendations from whatever the popular new release is. So it's like, if you like the Fast and the Furious, you should watch, the original Fast and the Furious and the Italian Job.
Yeah, watch Bullet or whatever. Yeah,
Bullet.
You like Fast Cars. Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're doing here. And today, in keeping with our tradition of having this always be the first everything, we're going to talk about Josie and the Pussycats. For anybody who doesn't know, which why are you listening? I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know that anybody could not know, but Josie and the Pussycats is a 2001 musical comedy. It's based on the Archie Comics property by the same name and kind of loosely based on the animated series from the 1970s. It's written and directed by Harry Elfont and Deb Kaplan, who are the duo who wrote and directed the movie Can't Hardly Wait just a couple of years before. It starred Rachel Lee Cook, Rosario Dawson, Tara Reid as the 3 main characters, and then you had villains who were played by Alan Cumming and Parker Posey. I wrote a book about it. There's a movie that failed at the box office, eventually became a cult classic, in part because it was so ahead of its time. Like, a lot of people didn't really get it when it came out. It's not a subtle movie, so I'm kind of confused as to how that happened.
The Roger Ebert of them all. Yes.
Famously, famously, Roger Ebert wrote something along the lines of, it's not dumber than Spice World, but it's as dumb as Spice World, and that's enough, or something. Which is, again, just a crazy take in hindsight, because you like look at the movie and you're like, this is very obviously like a critique of capitalism, a critique of this culture of monetizing every moment of our existence. And it arguably plays better now than it did 25 years ago, because the movie, like almost everything predicted in the movie, is something that you see now in day-to-day life. They had like product placement like on the plane and in your hotel room and like in the water in the aquarium and stuff. And this was all supposed to be very, very, very silly. But now we live in a world where they'll digitally superimpose product placement like on the pitcher's mound in a baseball game, so that like you have ads when you're watching. And like, I mean, there's already an ad behind the batter, but now there's also an ad like at the pitcher's feet. It's wild. But like, a lot of people watch this movie now and it's like, this is the world that we live in. 25 years ago, it seemed absurd in the same way that, a lot of other like over the top satires, whether you look at like Paul Verhoeven movies or, whatever, are absurd, Idiocracy. But once you jump forward 25 years and it's like, oh no, half of what's in RoboCop is real now, half of what's in Idiocracy is real now, 2/3 of what's in Josie and the Pussycats is real now. It shifts the way that we view some of these satires, because again, at the time, I think a lot of people looked at it and they just said it's dumb because like it's so over the top and it's so silly and it's so unrealistic. And now it's like, I actually, when I was working on the Josie book back in 2021, I remember walking through an undeveloped portion of Destiny USA, which is our local mall. And they were in the middle of expanding, and they had this like hallway that connected the old part of the mall with the new part of the mall. And the entire hallway was just covered in ads. And it was like you're walking through this like corridor that's nothing but being bombarded with ads bigger than your body. And I was just like, we live in Josie now. Like this is
Yeah.
the world we live in. And famously, the movie did not get paid for any of the product placement. The filmmakers basically went out seeking permission for like who is willing to let us allege that they're part of this dark global conspiracy.
Yeah.
And anybody who was willing to like let their logo be used for that got free product placement,
Yeah.
because they were essentially agreeing not to sue Universal.
Yeah.
um, I can't. Famously, the Gap. I think it was either the Gap or Old Navy. They originally they have like a big shot of what is essentially the Times Square jumbotron
Yeah.
in the movie, and in the final film, it's like a gigantic AOL ad,
Yeah.
uh, which was funny because AOL had just bought Moviefone, and Mr. Moviefone is actually one of the villains in the movie.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
but that AOL ad in the script was, I think it was the Gap, and it was like gonna be like everybody in leopard. Like the idea is like Josie and the Pussycats are fashion forward. The Gap was like, nah, nah, we don't want any part of this. Um,
No, we've talked for hours on this movie, so we won't go on too long. But yeah, no, it is obviously you should what's the book you should buy?
I wrote the book Best Movie Ever,
Yes,
which
there you
is
go.
the subtitle is An Oral History of Kaplan and Alphonse Josie and the Pussycats. You can find it on all the bookstores or at josiebook.com. And if you buy it from me, it comes signed and like the day that you pay for it, I'll send you a free PDF.
There you go.
So
Okay.
like if you buy a paper book from me, you get a free PDF right away. And so that way, if it takes me 5 days to get your stupid book in the mail,
Yes.
you're already reading.
Yeah. Yes, there you go.
But
Sorry, I just had to force that on you as the
and
promotion,
I
as the
am
trend pitch.
no, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I am trying to work on. I want to do like basically I want to do an abridged version for the 25th anniversary.
Mhm.
Like I want to take out some of the really redundant stuff. I'll talk about this real briefly because
Mhm.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, in the original book, there were a couple things that happened. One, there was this quote from one of the filmmakers where he said, like, I don't know how real the internet is. Like, I see all these people who tell us that they love the movie, but I think that really there's like 30 fans. And uh, so as like a joke that was for me and me only, because nobody's ever noticed this without me telling them,
Mhm.
uh, I interviewed 31 fans of the movie
Yeah.
for the book. So I wanted the 31 people in there, like as a wink and a nod to what Harry and Deb said, but
Yeah.
also just because I was like, this is a movie about this kind of thing. Like it's
Yeah.
funny to me to, and like each of my chapters had a fake sponsor that I got no money from.
Mhm.
Um, but so like I did all that stuff, but the end result was that I spoke with a lot of lay people who aren't super good at being interviewed.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the quotes were very similar. One of my first reviews on Amazon, I have no problem with my reviewers. My review score is terrific. Everybody who's said anything negative is mostly right.
Mhm.
Um, but like one of my very first reviews on Amazon said something along the lines of, um, the second half gets a little repetitive because there's only so many ways you can say the movie was ahead of its time. And I think that's a really fair criticism. And also, I don't love either my audiobook itself or the fact that it's on Amazon. Like it's an Audible exclusive.
Mhm.
And I don't want to take money out of the reader's pocket because it's not her fault that I don't like it. But so I'm going to leave it there. But I do want to like make a version of the Josie book that I can put on like Libro FM or bookshop.org or something and like
Yeah.
let people who aren't Jeff Bezos make some money from.
Yeah.
And so I'm like working on a 25th anniversary like version that's going to be a little bit cut down and then adding in some new cast and crew interviews because in the interim I've spoken with like Missy Pyle. There's one of the three giggling girls,
Oh yeah.
Catherine
Yeah.
Isabel, who was also in American Mary, which was written and directed by the Soska sisters, who are in my book
Yeah.
because they were extras in Josie and the Pussycats. Um, so there will be another Josie book at some point soon. That's basically exists just to have a cheap mass market paperback in time for the 25th anniversary and to give me another audiobook.
Yeah.
But it's not done yet because my Legends book is not done yet. And I've got
Yeah.
a whole row of things waiting in 2026, 2027.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So josiebook.com is where you can find the original, and if the new one's done by the time you're listening to this, you'll find it there too.
Cool.
The new one is going to be called Punk Rock Prom Queens, which is ironically just the name of the first chapter of the original book.
There you go.
But so anyway, with all that out of the way, we're gonna basically talk a little bit about some movies that you might like if you liked Josie and the
Yeah.
Pussycats. And typically when you see this kind of thing, a lot of the time it's very one for one, and we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to go with like a more like vibe-based, thematic-based thing.
Yeah.
Like one of the movies that I had on my list was Pop Star Never Stop, Never Stopping,
Yeah.
which has a lot of similarities to Josie in the way that it skewers the music industry, also in the fact that it was a failure that became a cult classic later.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it a bunch of times, and I felt like it's a very one-to-one thing. It doesn't require a lot of thought to be like, oh yeah, if you like this, you should try that one.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, so like I'm mentioning it here, but it's not on the list.
Yeah.
Uh, so Z, why don't you why don't you start us up? What is the first of our 5 for 5 movies for people who like Josie and the Pussycats?
The funny thing is, as we were talking, I came up with like, I'm like, oh damn it, that's a perfect another one. But the first one is Saved. One of my positions always at the movie at the rental place was like, okay, you've never heard of this film, and it's a baby. I hate using it's a little edgy, but I mean, when it came out in '96 or
Yeah,
whatever, like it was a little edgy, because gay marriage and being allowed to be gay in public basically at all, or be open about it was shockingly
yeah,
problematic. But it's a movie. It's just the IMDb description is when a girl attending Christian high school becomes pregnant, all of her former friends turn on her, and she is ostracized and demonized. And it's the kind of the vibe of it is just like it's counterculture, and it's like people who are in a world they think they want to be in. And then changing and kind of like coming to a realization that, oh my God, all of this is BS. All of this is, messed up or whatever. And kind of having, and Jenna
right.
Malone is absolutely fantastic in it. He had a huge crush on her for
Yeah,
for this film. And it's also got Mandy Moore, who it's funny, like I was realizing, I'm like, I was always wondering, like, why don't I like Mandy Moore? And I'm like, there's no necessary reason why I didn't like her
yeah,
for like a long time. And then I realized it was like she plays the very like now we would say like the trad wife like as a teenager, but like
yeah,
Christian influencer type person. Like it's very kind of ahead of its time in showing
yeah,
that kind of idea where it's just like, oh, these people are just like it's just pure fake Christianity. And it's also like a very like I didn't go to Catholic school, but like I'm Catholic school adjacent. My grandmother was
right.
this Catholic school teacher or whatever. But it's like the difference between like a Catholic and like a more Christian school. Like the differences are pretty dramatic.
Mhm.
Macaulay Culkin is also fantastic in it, and Patrick Fugit is in it. It has this like a whole bunch of
Yeah,
other cast members who are just like wild. And it is also again like Josie, where film that like became kind of an indie favorite within a bunch of basically like ex-Christian, like saviors. It's like one of those
yeah,
films that if like you say you like, you kind of get into. I don't want to let out any secrets, but like you're just like, oh, you're okay. Like, it's like, oh, we can trust you like with
yeah,
things because you like this film and like obviously you kind of got it. And that's like I don't even know if it's available.
yeah.
I should have checked this before, but like I think I have the original DVD when it came out in the late 90s, and that's like the only
Yeah, so
version I've ever
it's
had.
it's an MGM movie.
Yeah.
It's an MGM movie, so it almost certainly is streaming for free on Prime Video with ads.
Yeah.
Um, just because that's where almost all of MGM's library is now that Amazon owns MGM.
Oh, cool. It's on YouTube for free. It's on Tubi for free. It's on
Oh,
Roku for free. It's basically one of those like free things. And Pluto.
huh,
Um,
strange.
and so it's also, but I think
Yeah,
it's also on
I mean it's
Prime.
cool. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
which is cool. I think that
but yeah, definitely one of those movies that I've never, I don't think, not owned that movie since it came to DVD.
yeah, same.
I think at some point I lost my DVD and replaced it almost immediately. I haven't watched it that many times,
Yeah.
but I really love that movie, and I like there have been a bunch of times where I just like think of it one day, and I'm like, I'm gonna put that on.
Yeah,
And so I always want to like you know how there's that kind of movie where you're like, I want to know that it's there, so that when I
yeah,
randomly decide I need to see it, I don't have to
yeah,
worry about it.
yeah. No, I mean
Um,
it's wild too because it like really it's like so many careers. Either people, it kind of like was such a vibe shift for so many people's career. Like I think Jenna Malone was always the edgy, person or whatever. But like Mandy Moore was doing this.
yeah,
Like Macaulay Culkin, it was kind of like I think it was one of his like kind of first like more adult. I mean, obviously he played a teenager, but like more not a
yeah.
child like kind of things.
Yeah,
And
it was. I believe it was like immediately prior to him doing Party Monster.
oh yeah, yeah. So
And so you had like that 2 year stretch where it was like everything Macaulay Culkin was in, a certain subset of people getting very upset about
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
then the fact that he was Macaulay Culkin and doing these
yeah,
movies made them
yeah.
even more upset.
Yeah. It's also interesting because I did a like Brian Dannelly. It seems to be also kind of I think he has like one other feature film, but he mostly did
Yeah.
TV afterwards. He did ton of TV, a lot of producing, a lot of writing, but he wrote and I believe he wrote and directed this too. And so it's just like it's the
Hmm.
parallels of Josie are there too, but it is one of those I'm like I
Yeah.
think if you
Yeah, because that's, I mean, after,
yeah,
because that's what happened with the writer and
yeah,
writer directors of that movie is that like after Josie didn't do anything at the box office,
yeah,
they ended up like retreating from feature films and going to TV for a long time.
yeah.
They still write some features, and I think they might be directing one this year, which would be the first one in 25 years.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on it.
If you get obviously if you like this podcast, I think you'll like this. Like that's always easier, but that's kind of cheating. The filming, the look of it and everything like that too is there as well. Like it's definitely
Yeah,
more of an indie film. But honestly, it's just like one of those like I think
yeah.
the entire film happens at a high school and in someone's like in a bedroom. So I mean like it's not like I mean like I don't know what a
House in
budget
a
would do
van.
type of
Yeah,
thing, type of thing. So it's not like Josie where it's just like
yeah,
it's traveling around the world and everything like that. So
yeah. You kind of needed like as much as it's easy to point to Josie and be like, you didn't need to spend $28 million on that or whatever it was. Um,
yeah.
it's like you do need a certain amount of money to do
Mhm.
a giant like concert at the end with 2,000 extras,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they had to paint out the roof of the dome in Vancouver because they wanted it to be an outdoor arena,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. The next thing I was going to say is 10 Things I Hate About You,
Mhm.
which is another like high school comedy. It's definitely much more mainstream than Saved. Um, it's kind of what Josie wanted to be, I think, in some ways, because it was definitely a big commercial success and it helped the careers of everybody involved.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's it's got a similar like anti-establishment, like your main character is the weird kid kind
Mhm.
of sensibility.
Yeah.
It steers clear of like it's easy to look at Josie and then look at She's All That because obviously Rachel Lee Cook, that's what blew up her career
Mhm.
and made her a star. Part of the reason I would say 10 Things I Hate About You over She's All That is that She's All That has like that very stereotypical like makeover montage
Yeah.
in it. And like with 10 Things I Hate About You, it's much more like Josie and the Pussycats. Like at no point do they try to pretend that Rachel Lee Cook, Tara Reid, and Rosario Dawson aren't gorgeous. They
Yeah.
just kind of make it that these people are weirdos, and so people don't like them because they're weird,
Yeah.
which is much more like what happens in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
Um, and again, like that to me, especially in that period of time in like 1999, 2001 stretch of time was rare. Like
Yeah.
like we had to pretend Rachel Lee Cook was ugly because she had overalls on. Like obviously at this point, like they made a parody of that in one of those teen movies.
Yeah.
And so like everybody's, like it's a common observation, but it is like it's an observation that's true. I will say 10 Things I Hate About You is a really interesting movie in the sense that it was directed by this guy, Gil Junger or Younger. I don't know how you like I'm not sure if it's like a German pronunciation where it's
Mhm.
the J is, you know. But he's done a few things that were commercially successful, but really not very many good movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, 10 Things I Hate About You is head and shoulders the best thing of his career. He did
Oof.
The Black Knight with Martin Lawrence, which did make a bunch of money.
It was watchable. I remember it
But
being,
yeah, other
yeah.
than that, it's like you look at his filmography. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here that's like direct to DVD, like
Mhm.
you know, talking dog kind of movies. He did the Bruce and Lloyd little direct to DVD like mini feature. I think it's like a 40-minute movie featuring the side characters from the Steve Carell Get Smart movie.
Yeah.
Um,
God.
and so like he's done a lot of like he's like a journeyman director, and obviously like there's no shame in doing what you got to do to keep working in this business.
Yeah.
But like when you look at his career, it's like, oh no, there's 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a movie people still regularly talk about 30 years later.
Yeah.
And then there's everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I mean, he did do
uh,
29
and
episodes
so
of Ellen. So I mean, like he was the director for Ellen, for at least
oh
most of the
yeah,
episodes. So I mean, yeah,
yeah,
but he was like again, like we're talking about, mostly did, TV and kind of like which is wild to like have
yeah,
such a huge film like that and then kind of immediately go back
yeah.
into I'm just trying to where that is in his career. I guess like 2 years later he did Black Knight.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he did a lot of like he continued to do an episode or two of TV shows from there from like here and there after that.
Mhm.
But it does kind of look oh no, he did 35 episodes of Hope and Faith. So like I guess he did like go back to doing TV, but it does feel like a lot of these are like one episode, 3 episodes, 4 episodes. It's like
Yeah.
he wasn't really the house director. He was there because like they needed somebody.
Yeah.
Um the one addition to this cast that I should talk about the most is in 10 Things I Hate About You, there's a band that plays both at the school dance and then again at the over the credits.
Mhm.
Like there's a famous like aerial shot that ascends over the school and you see the band playing on the roof.
Yeah.
And that band is Letters to Cleo. So Kay Hanley, who is the singing voice of Josie McCoy and Josie and the Pussycats,
Oh,
is the singer in
there you go.
in all of the band scenes in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's wild.
which it was kind of funny. I actually when I wrote the book, I advertised the book on this podcast that I really like called If the Villain Was or called The Villain Was Right.
Mhm.
Um, and basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. They take movies and they're just like, no, like the villain was actually right in this. Like
Yeah.
like a lot of it is that like the same silly conversations you have all the time on Twitter, where it's like, yeah, Bane's right. Like Wall Street needs to be taken down, and
Yeah.
Batman is a rich asshole.
Yeah.
Um, and so like it's run by two comedians. It's mostly comedy, but it's a really enjoyable show. And so I decided I would advertise on there. By total coincidence, and without them noticing it, they put my ad for the Josie book on the episode about 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
and so later on, I was like, hey guys, did you notice that? And they were like, nope. uh,
Nice.
but so yeah, Kay was in that movie, and she's, as I said, the singing voice of Josie. She is a delight. She does a lot of like music for TV and stuff now. I mean, obviously, Letters to Cleo was back together for the first time in years. They got back together in like 2017.
Yeah.
But they she also does a lot of like I know when I was talking to her back in 2021, she was doing some music for Vampirina,
Mhm.
which is
Nice.
like a Disney animated series. She works, and I don't want to mischaracterize it, so I'm just going to say something in the neighborhood of uh, like doing like union stuff for the songwriters union.
Oh,
Like
cool.
she has some official role with somebody with like a songwriters like guild.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's like she's really cool, she's really nice, she's very, very proud of Josie. But also like she just does a bunch of really cool crap now.
Yeah.
Um,
She is vice chair of
uh,
Unclaimed
but
Royalties Oversight Committee.
and obviously like I've gone this far talking about just the director and Kay
Mhm.
Hanley. Like this is one of those movies where it's like everybody in it was terrific. Again, like it's a very mainstream movie. Like relative to a lot of the like goofy indie stuff that we talk about, it's much more like you know straightforward.
Yeah.
But Allison Janney, is in like 2 minutes of this movie, and it's the funniest thing she's ever done.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger are both terrific in it. Larissa Olenek, who I think is like has never been bad in anything ever. I think she's another one of those people who I just every time I see her in something, I'm like, you make it better.
Yeah.
Which is funny because she really doesn't do much anymore. Um, but she was in some episodes of Psych. That was the last time I remember seeing her. I know she does some Netflix things now, kind of like Rachel Lee Cook does.
Mhm.
But people, if they remember her at all, probably remember her best for The Secret World of Alex Mack, which was like a Nickelodeon live action show that ran for 4 or 5 seasons. Back when Nick used to have, I don't know if you know this, Nick used to have like this hard and fast rule about how many episodes they would let things run. But I think it's because the idea was that they were supposed to be by kids for kids, and so if you're
Mhm.
on the air for too long, you stop being a kid.
Yeah.
But uh, The Secret World of Alex Mack was actually the longest running live action Nick show like ever.
Mhm.
And that record, because Nick canceled things so abruptly after like 96 episodes or something,
Mhm.
that record stood all the way until like iCarly 20 years later.
Oof.
Um,
Oof.
and so, in spite of the fact that like most people don't really, most people over a certain age at least don't know Alex, or under a certain age, I mean, don't know Alex Mack at all.
Mhm.
It was like a really key piece of Nick's, like early Nick's story, because it was one of their most successful live action shows, right up there with like Clarissa and Hey Dude. The thing, like the most famous thing in this movie, there's a musical sequence where Heath Ledger sings to humiliate himself to make a point.
Mhm.
And that I distinctly remember back in 2008, people like posting that scene on like early social media in response to him being cast as the Joker.
Yeah.
Like that was the like, how can he be the Joker? He's the douchey guy from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah. Well,
And
prove them wrong on that. So.
because the internet never learns anything and
Mhm.
doesn't understand. All right, what's next? What's our next
The next up is this one's a little bit more straightforward, I feel, is That Thing You Do. Which I don't know how the hell I missed that. Like, I guess I probably forgot that
yeah.
like it was actually written and directed by Tom Hanks. Um, but which is not something obviously, and
Yes.
stars Tom as well, but also like it's also another one of those films that has like a crazy
Yeah.
cast that Liv Tyler, Charlize Theron, Giovanni Ribisi, Tom Everett Scott, Jonathan Scotch, Scatch. I forget how to pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Shaq.
Shaq. Okay, yeah, that makes
Shaq.
a hell of a lot more sense than how I was pronouncing it.
It's Shaq. You know how I know?
Yeah.
He's Jonah Hex from Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh, nice. There's it goes
Yeah,
to
so
my
so I know John pretty well.
yeah. It's just one of those I think,
Yeah.
it's probably the most I think out of our list that I remember us like before we before we get into anymore is that like it's very clear it's like definitely the like it's the vanilla straightforward version of a Josie kind of like idea where a bunch of, young kids that are going into the business and becoming hardened by like the world or whatever, and then how they come out of it the other end type of thing. Friendships are lost or gained or whatever, and so like and it's and it's another. I think it would be a fantastic
Mhm.
like. Out of everything that we're talking about, probably it's probably the best. Like, oh, if you definitely want to watch, you're gonna watch Josie, and then you watch That Thing You Do. That works, and like everybody that likes Josie will probably like That Thing You Do. And
Yeah.
like it's not like, oh, you're throwing in one of my next films that I'm going to talk about, which is a little bit
Yeah.
more of a harder sell. So, yeah,
Well, it's funny because I can't remember if it's Spin Around or Three Small Words. I think it's Three Small Words because that was like the single in the movie.
yeah.
But one of the main songs in Josie and the Pussycats was written by Adam Schlesinger, who was the front man for Fountains of Wayne.
Oh, cool.
And Adam actually wrote the song "That Thing You Do." Uh, so
Oh, wow.
he's like he was the guy you went to when you needed like a believable pop hit in movies and TV. He also
Yeah,
did almost all the music for the TV show My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, not My
yeah.
Crazy. But So he's terrific, and like sonically, like there's a lot of shared DNA because like he wrote one or two songs for Josie, but he was in the room for a lot. He played rhythm guitar on a lot of those songs, and so Adam's like sonic fingerprint is all over both of those movies. My next film we've talked about a bunch
Mhm.
is it's Hudson Hawk,
Oh, really? Oh,
and there's a
haven't heard of
couple
this one.
things. First of all, yeah. Well, like Josie, it's like a globe-trotting comic adventure.
Mhm.
And it did not do well in its theatrical release.
Yeah.
The two conniving villains in Hudson Hawk
Oh, yeah.
really remind
Okay.
me of Wyatt and Fiona.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny because Richard, whose last
Richard
name I
Grant.
cannot remember,
Richard E. Grant.
thank you, yes, Richard Grant
Yeah.
was in Spice World with Alan Cumming, and
Yeah.
so Alan in my book joked about how like people compared his character to, or people compared Josie to Spice World, and he's like, the only real like shared DNA is that I'm just doing Richard Grant in this movie.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I'm just being like channeling him, and so when I watched Hudson Hawk, and I was like, man, these guys really remind me of like Wyatt and Fiona.
Yeah.
And then later on, Alan was like, "Yeah, I'm channeling Richard Grant in this movie." I'm like, "Yeah, hey, look at that."
100%.
uh, but and like they are so like uh, there's that same thing. There's like this tortured kind of sort of sexual energy between the two. That's never really fully consummated, partly because the male character is kind of queer coded.
Mhm.
Um, you also have like the woman being the one who's like leading the conspiracy, so to speak, and and being kind of abusive to the guy.
Yeah.
Um, and but you also have the deeply petty, deeply personal nature of their villainy, where it's like you've got this giant global conspiracy happening, but like everything that the two villains are doing is so small,
Yeah.
and I love it. And
Yeah.
like that's the kind of villains I like in general, and like to me I watch those movies. It's like I love Danny Aiello
Mhm.
and Bruce Willis in Hudson Hawk.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the movie doesn't work without their dynamic.
Yeah.
um but the villains are so delightful, and like in all of the
Yeah.
villains, because there's like seven of them in Hudson Hawk as opposed to just the two in Josie.
Yeah.
But those two in particular, you're just like, I love that kind of villain, and it's really like I said, I watched Josie and I watched Hudson Hawk, and it was like I hadn't watched Hudson Hawk in a while, and I was working on the Josie book, and it's like you cannot miss how similar those characters are when you're
Yeah.
watching those within a couple of weeks of each other.
It's also a musical, which is something that like I always love descriptions of Hudson Hawk,
That's true.
and the fact that like it's like on on IMDb, it's like a cat burglar is forced to steal Leonardo's works of arts for a world domination plot. And it's like,
Yeah.
and there's songs along the way and an entire soundtrack that I
Yeah.
had memorized when I
So
was a child to the chagrin of my entire family.
what's really funny is that because I've been working on the Plex server and stuff lately,
Mhm.
um, guess what came in the mail today? This is the
Nice.
Hudson Hawk soundtrack.
I literally just had it
Uh,
in my, it's funny, I had my copy of it in my hand somewhere, like, because I was looking
yeah,
through films that I was like, okay, I always like to hold up a prop when I'm talking about a movie. And of course, all of the films I think we've talked about, like I just pulled them out and put them in my binder like 20 years ago. And so like I have like
yeah,
150 films that are just in like big old, CD binders or whatever. And I don't have the discs anymore, which is, or I don't have the
yeah.
boxes anymore, which kills me. But where is it? Did I pull it out or is it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just funny. I yeah. But yeah, no. I
We're
yeah.
getting like 240p video from you, so
Oh, really? Yeah.
I said we're
Yeah.
getting like 240p video from you, so
Yeah,
I don't know
we
that we'd be able to
we
see it
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, we have a bad delay going as well. So I don't think I have to talk too much about my love. It's like your love of Hudson Hawk, your love of Josie is my love of Hudson Hawk, which like eventually we'll
Yeah, yeah.
work together and do a book on it as long as any. the few surviving cast members of
Yeah,
this. So Danny Aiello unfortunately has passed, and Bruce is not doing interviews anymore and that type of thing. So it's tough. But
yeah.
I think I love because it's like this is really a film that like I one after another like it's completely wild. Like I have a friend Aaron who like I've done some work with Aaron Cynic in Chicago, and I just offhand I think I was
Mhm.
talking to him. We used to do a politics podcast, and I think I had my Hudson Hawk poster behind me, and he was just like, what is that? And he
Yeah.
was just like, that's a Hudson Hawk poster. And he was just like, you like Hudson Hawk? And I was like, yeah, it's like my I think I like reached over and grabbed a DVD, and I was like, and I like over there I have like a a set photo and a thing like that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a fan. I could say that I'm a fan. Here's the CD as well. Also, here's the audio cassette of the thing. Oh, here's I have the Game Boy game over there, and I don't have a Game
Yeah.
Boy. And he's like, oh my God. And then I found out a mutual friend of ours is also a fan of Hudson Hawkins too. And so it's just like it's this weird thing. It's like I forget.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of other people online. I have to like try to hunt down who they were. There's a bunch of comic
Adam
book
P.
artists.
Nave, who's a
That's
comic
who
book
it is.
writer I'm friends with.
Yeah, we got to have him on
Yeah,
at some
Adam.
point. I think I pitched it to him before, but we got to have him on and just talk about like
Yeah,
Hudson Hawk for no reason. Like do our 17th
yeah,
episode on Hudson Hawk and then on Josie. Like, but yeah,
yeah,
no,
exactly.
so yeah, no, I don't have to
And
say.
Adam is quoted in the Josie book, I think.
Oh, cool.
I was just gonna say, why don't you take us home? You can do the fifth one, and that way, we can stop talking before the connection decides to completely die.
Yes, yeah, no. So my final one, man, I'm trying to decide because I came up with another one. You know what? I'm gonna do this one. I had a laundry list of other ones, but Bamboozled, which is a
Yes.
Spike Lee film, very like on the level of like Spike Lee films that like people talk about. I don't think I ever hear like I don't think I ever hear anyone talk about this film.
Yeah.
It is God. Let me just read the back, like read the back on with blistering funny, unapologetically confrontational satire. Writer director Spike Lee has examined the past and present and future of racism in popular America. Under the pressure to help revive his new at network low ratings, television writer Pierre Delacroix, Damon Wayans, hits on an explosively offensive idea, bringing back blackface with the new Millennium Minstrel Show. The white network executives love it, and so do the audiences, forcing Pierre and his collaborators to confront their public's insatiable appetite for dehumanizing stereotypes. It came out in 2000 as well. Like I think that like it's interesting, like 99, 2000, 2001 there was a wild number of films like again, like Josie that were kind of dealing with the media's
Mhm.
like I don't know I'm curious. I mean I'm sure smarter people have written about it. I'm sure you've thought about it, but it's just like the idea that like the number of films, you know, you have Fight Club, you had, yeah, I mean, even American Beauty, like almost all the half the films about in that came out in
Yeah.
'99 were kind of dealing with that, and it's kind of wild why it happened at the moment. Like, you know, it's like you go over kind of history. We have movies like Network and, you know, I mean, that kind of deal with it, but like they're like maybe one every couple years, like a big
Mhm.
kind of like thing. But like every director, I feel like was like dealing with this kind of idea of like how we
Yeah.
look at ourselves and how we deal with deal with everything. And it's like before the internet. So like it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like I
I
just
feel
can't.
like though, like it was and it wasn't, because you and I like had the internet in high school. I
Mhm.
feel like the rich people working in Hollywood probably were seeing the internet coming at them like a freight train.
Yeah.
And it's like also it's the end of the millennium, and I feel like there was this feeling between 98 and 2002
Mhm.
that the world was changing in a way that nobody could get a handle on.
Yeah.
And I think that probably is part of why a lot of these things happened.
Yeah. It's it's a I would say Bamboozled is it's a bit of a tough watch. I ended up seeing it the first time I saw it in a theater in Harlem. This was the only place that was playing it, at least at that point in New York City. And it was me and my girlfriend at the time, who's an extraordinarily white girl.
Huh.
And it was we were the two only white kids in the entire theater, and it was one of those like I got a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of references from Spike Lee stuff like that that I got that like some people in the audience did, whatever. And it was just like the entire time it was like, when do we laugh? When do we laugh? Because it's like it is probably by far. I'm trying to think of like any other Spike Lee film that like really walks this kind of like direct line of like pushing the shit in your face like in a way. And yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Also, Spike Lee, I mean, Spike Lee confronts racism a lot, but
Mhm.
like the thing about Bamboozled is that he mined it for humor,
Yeah,
and he was like pushing these jokes at you, expecting you to laugh,
yeah.
and that is unusual for Lee.
Mhm.
Like he doesn't usually mind that stuff for humor. He usually addresses it in a fairly straightforward, dramatic narrative
Yeah.
way. And so I think it's funny because you and I had the opposite experience of what you're describing once upon a time. I went and saw Bulworth opening
Yeah.
weekend with my friend Eric, and it was like in Shopping Town Mall in DeWitt. So it was like a bunch of middle-aged white people,
Yeah.
and Eric was the only black person in the audience.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, he turned around and he pointed out to me like people are waiting for me to laugh. Like people, they're nervous to laugh
Yeah.
before I do. And so he was kind of holding back as long as he could on some of the more racy jokes because he thought it was funny to see the
So,
audience like choke on their uh, which
God, yeah.
every
That
time every time we get together and like sit down and have a cup of coffee or whatever, he's always like that's one of those stories that always comes up because like he and I used to go to a bunch of movies. Like
yeah.
he was my regular movie guy when you were dating somebody in high school, and so like
Yeah.
we didn't go together because you were going with her.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah.
so like we will, there's a lot of like we saw a lot of movies, but like Bulworth, both because we loved it so much and because that experience was so like
Mhm.
surreal and funny,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
is the one that comes up all the time.
Yeah. This also I would say is also I'm trying to remember if they actually have it on here. This is the it's also shot. Shoot, what film did he? I'll have to look it up. I had in the shot notes, show notes. It's also one of the first films I think he did. Mostly, I think a lot of it was shot on a prosumer level video camera. And I just remember that being a big thing because like a lot of different directors were trying that. Steven Soderbergh and
Yeah,
was it
yeah,
oh my God. Miami Vice was shot like on video on like not a
yeah,
fantastically high quality video, which is something that's interesting watching it
yeah,
now where it's like it really kind of shows and it's kind of it's actually for me like very different sidetrack, but
yeah.
like Miami Vice is I grew up as a kid like loving that. There's like one of a photo that I have is like me wearing a Miami Vice hat and like when I was far too young to know what that
Oh
show
yeah,
was. And but like
yeah.
it was an interesting time. Actually, I think I'm pretty sure that I actually ended up buying the like the video camera that he not obviously not the same camera, but like one of the ones on it. And so it's like
Right,
it was
right.
it's probably his most like kind of edgy, not edgy in the pushing
Yeah,
whatever, but like filmically edgy kind of film that he
yeah,
does because he's pretty much he knocked it out of the park in his his first couple films and you're like why would you change things and it's like yeah no shit like Scorsese to an extent is
yeah,
did that it was just like no I have a style I like film and I like whatever and
yeah,
we're sticking with that but yeah no it's on
yeah.
I'm
I
holding
mean,
up if you can see it's Criterion but
it's funny because not too long after Bamboozled was when he did the 25th Hour.
yeah
Uh, and the 25th Hour was a really unusual movie for Lee. Not just because the main character and half of the supporting cast were white, which is like a real departure for Lee because like so many of his movies like have to have a black lead because the narratives they're exploring are about
yeah
being black in America. And so it certainly that was a weird kind of creative period for Lee where he was like, do I mess with my look or do I just do my thing? And I think
yeah
ultimately he decided he's going to do his thing.
yeah no I
um,
think that was
but he definitely experimented a little bit.
25th Hour was shot on. I just had to look it up because I was trying to remember what camera Bamboozled, but 25th Hours was shot
Oh, okay.
on Aricam film. So he was doing a lot of like this isn't all just a
Oh, okay. I
prosumer
thought that
level
was
one.
I thought it was
I think
digital.
he
Yeah.
definitely used a mix of things. You can if you watch 25th Hour, I'd have to go back and look and anyone actually listening, listening at this point, like feel free to correct me or
Yeah.
whatever because I don't have everything in front of me. But it is he was mixing with different cameras and different kind of styles, like and there's certainly like the difference between like his opening sequence and then his um what was it that those speeches in front of that Ed
Well,
Norton
then
does.
in front of the mirror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, uh, point being, like that was a weird period for Lee where he seemed to, and I wonder if part of that was that like he had a couple of movies in a row that weren't big commercial hits.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and he was kind of transitioning because obviously he's become like an indie darling in the years since, and his movies make a certain amount of money, but he's
Yeah,
never gotten as big as like Malcolm X again.
yeah, yeah. No.
Uh, all right. Any closing thoughts on our 5 for 5? We're actually reasonably close to an
Yeah, I know. I
hour.
don't want to push it. We're about an hour in. Yeah, no. We'll have a info on how to find the films. Nothing's that crazy hard to find other than maybe Bamboozled, which
No,
as
none
far
of
as
these are super rare.
yeah, and but yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
this is something we're gonna try to keep doing with different films. Uh, I next month I have to figure out we might do Hudson Hawk. I'm not sure, which will be an interesting jump. But basically, first couple times, and the idea kind of that we both had is we eventually would like to start like inviting people on to talk about their favorite film, and then kind of like make this like a
Right.
5 for 5 thing, and like oh we can all recommend. I was like I like this film or whatever, and then my favorite film is Fight Club,
Right.
and these are other films you should check out. And kind of like try to draw in like it's like we know a ton of people that also do podcasts and we like to try to do some crossovers and things like that. So if you're one of those people and you're listening and
Yeah.
you got a film that you have and then you got a couple films to recommend along with it that like would make a good like I guess movie weekend or whatever. Like I don't know how many people I assume most of the people amongst our thing if you're fans of this podcast and fans of ECV, then you probably are the type of people that are like, I'm going to rent a couple movies and watch 6 films over the weekend,
Yeah.
like Muncie and I used to do. We all would get together and like watch and be like do a 5 for 5 and
Yeah.
basically do potentially 2 in a weekend. But yeah, so
All right. Well, thanks everybody for sticking with us through this hour, and be back here by noon on the 5th day for more Emerald City Video. And always remember to rewind your cassettes, especially if there's 5 of them. For fuck's sake.
yeah,